Right. Like you heard, my name is Amon. I'm from Zimbabwe. So you can trust I'm not here to spy about world cricket because we didn't qualify. Anyway, we have heard about how sports develops individuals, how they become successful, and how they become icons in their own field, the financial remuneration that comes to them. But I want to talk about something different. I want to talk about the collective of the sports people. When they come together as a team and represent their nation, and the power they have collectively to build the psyche of a nation, to build unity within their country. So let me start by just saying, when I travel to different parts of the world, the first thing I'm always interested is to learn more about the country. So I'm in India now. Let me tell you what I've learned in the last few hours I've been around. So I've come to know that India is a huge country, not only in terms of its population and its geographical size, but it's also big in terms of the various languages that are in the country. It is also big on the diverse religions that are in the country. It is big on a number of things which from the outset or from the outsider, you may think there is a lot of differences. But sport has got the power to bring all these people together. Now, picture this. India is in the World Cup final, cricket. Well, I said when India gets there. In other words, I'm not saying if you guys are getting into the final. If you don't do it, it's not my fault anymore. So you picture this. You are in the final. What is the mood in the country on the eve of the game? Go a bit forward. The final is now taking place. Everyone in the country is anxious. Everybody's watching. People are cheering from their houses. Some are in the stadium, of course. But there's one thing they're expecting. A win. Okay? They're expecting to come up with a good result. 11 men cladded in blue have got the hopes of 1 billion people. They have to deliver. And that situation you are in, prior to the game and during the game, brings strangers to become immediate family. Sports has the ability to bring people together. So in my next part of the talk, I just want to take you through a few examples that we've seen around the world in which sport has been used to actually build nations. So let's go back to 1959 in China. China in the mid-20s, the first half of the 20th century, never was anywhere the success of sports. It was poor, it was economically weak, but in 1959 something changed. We had earlier a talk about table tennis, and a player from China by the name Rong, he won the world championships of table tennis. And Mao, who was the chairman of the Communist Party in China at the time, realized there was a big opportunity to bring the whole nation together. They put infrastructure into this sport, and they really rallied everybody around it. Here is a good example of how sport was used to try and bring everybody under a common identity surrounded around the issue of table tennis, or ping pong, as they say. So we've heard the phrase ping pong democracy. I'm not going to talk much more about this because the story does not end there. For some of you, you may know that it was ping pong which opened the debate or the discussion between USA and China during the Cold War. Like I said, it's a talk for another day. Moving on to the 60s, we have the story of Singapore, where Lee Kuan Yew used the idea of creating a rugged nation in which the idea of outdoor sports, the idea of outdoor activities, I'm sure you still have some of those in our curriculums, where you have to do a bit of gardening outside, walk outside. He used that to the greatest strength of Singapore to try and bring everybody together. It was necessary because he realized its independence from the British that there were the Chinese in the country, there were Malays, and there were the Indians. How do you bring all these people together? And he's used the power of sport to try and do that. Now, closer to my own home in South Africa, Nelson Mandela came out of jail in 1994. And when he came out, there was a lot of anxiety in the country. One section of the population was thinking, what's going to happen to us? Is he going to take revenge on us for putting him in jail for 27 years? Another part of the population was excited. In fact, some of them were thinking, this is our chance to get back at those who have been oppressing us. But what did Nelson Mandela do? He demonstrated beyond no doubt that the nation can come together by the power of sport. And how did he do that? As you can see in the picture there, he wore the number 6 jersey, which was the jersey that the captain of the Springboks, that's the South African rugby team, wore. And with that, the idea of coming together as a nation, the Rainbow Nation, as they speak about it today, became a reality. Let's move on. I don't know if you can identify those guys there, but the guy who is in the middle holding a mic goes by the name Didier Drogba. Those of you who follow football, you may know that Didier Drogba was the captain of Ivory Coast. He was also the key striker of Chelsea for a long period. He was lethal. For those who know him, he scored goals, many goals. But I'm not going to talk about his footballing at Chelsea. I'm going to talk about the role that he played within the national team. So in 2005, his country, Ivory Coast, was at war. The Muslims from the north were fighting the Christian government from the south. And it was disaster during that time. But it happened that in 2005, they played a game against Sudan, and they qualified for the World Cup for the very first time. And in the dressing room, Didier Drogba picked the microphone and addressed the nation. What he spoke about was the idea that the North, the South, come together. Look what we've achieved today. Our team is composed of Muslims, Christians, everybody from different parts of the country. And he addressed them, the whole nation, and said, drop your weapons, come together, let's organize elections and move forward. A few weeks later, the warring parties came to the negotiating table and they achieved peace, something that they'd failed to do, thank you, something that they'd failed to do in the past 5 years. So what do we learn from this? We learn a number of things from this. The first one being that there is power in sport. The second thing being that sports people take responsibility for their actions and they know the power they have if they really want to use it. Now, this may appear like anecdotal evidence. Let me talk in conclusion about a study that was carried out by some scholars, and this work was published in the American Economic Review, which is the top journal in economics. This study looked at African countries when they played World Cup matches, when they played matches of the Africa Cup of Nations. And what they found from the study was when the team won, it didn't matter with which stage they were playing at, ethnic differences. Remember, in Africa, there's a lot of ethnic and tribal groups. Tensions between ethnic groups went down. And they went down even further if the team was composed of diverse players from different parts of the country, from different parts of the religion. And this just shows us that we can harness the power of sport. A typical practical explanation here would be, if you do have issues in the country that are so difficult to discuss, during the window where you make success in sport, that's the time to bring them to the table for discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.